night, why we always dim the light. Then we build castles in the air, and we whisper soft and low till she says it's time to go. When I say goodbye, you can hear me cry, angel, you're sweeter than the sweetest angel. You're neater than the neatest, all the silks and satins and lace could not improve your beautiful face. You're just an angel. I'm up in heaven when I'm in your company. You really should have a pair of wings, sweetest of sweetest things. You're just an angel to me. Angel, sweetness, baby, mine.
If we're together, we can kiss those blues away. Everything will be okay as long as we're in love. Birds of a feather realize it's all in fun. Two can starve as well as one as long as we're in love. I will take you window shopping down the avenue, and we will find a little cozy corner to huddle in, cuddle in. What does it matter where we are or what we do? You'll have me and I'll
Well, good evening, Lakesiders. How are we doing this evening? Oh, good. That's good. I am John Mann, Director of Education for Lakeside, and we all know the most history has been written by men about men. Women in History is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the education of all people through the dramatic portrayals of the lives of notable American women in our history. And this evening, we'll meet two of these women. We're going back almost 100 years to the very beginning of the idea of going behind the scenes to talk about the two powerful women who invented and dominated Hollywood gossip as it was known in the 20th century, Llewellyn Parsons and Hetty Hopper. Parsons and Hopper were both self-made women, single moms from middle America who shattered the glass ceiling. They were also small-minded, self-obsessed influencers who used their power to ensure that the rich, powerful people who made movies lived in fear. The year is 1948, and the town is Hollywood. Everyone is either on their way up or on their way down. And these two are both determined to stay on top. Neither is a movie star or a movie mogul, but each holds enough power to be among the most feared women in Hollywood. And tonight, you are part of the studio audience for a radio program about to begin. Millions across America are gathered around, tuning in to listen to Llewellyn Parsons' radio show, Hotel Hollywood.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being part of the studio audience tonight. Of course, I don't need any introduction. I'm your host, Llewellyn Parsons, have my column, Hotel Hollywood, in 60,000 newspapers all over the country, and millions of listeners are out there right now, right with you, listening to far more juicy gossip from Hollywood. So, before we get started, I have a few minutes to chat. How do you like my hat? I bought this hat, well, number one, to show that Hetty Hopper is not the only one who can wear hats. But I also bought this to celebrate my new book. It's called The Gay Illiterate. And it's illiterate because, some people say Llewellyn Parsons can't write. Some people said all I can use is fourth grade prose and such. But, sometimes I'll tell you it's all just an act. It's just all an act because if people don't think you're smart, if they think you're a little bit illiterate, they will tell you all of their secrets. Just think about your own friends. Think about who's sitting right next to you, right? I mean, if somebody really smart is sitting next to you, you're not going to tell them what's really going on in your life. So that's why, it's the gay illiterate, and gay just means because I'm so happy. That's what gay means, because it's 1948. So I just am celebrating that, and I'm here to start the program, and we're going to actually start the radio program in just a few minutes, so if you just be patient, they're not quite ready. Oh, no. Oh, no. Hetty Hopper.
Who let her in here? Who let her in here? Who let her in here? John, did you let her in here? Did you let her in? Did you let her in? Oh, well, somebody let me know when she is finally out of here.
This is my program. You don't belong in here. You just go back to where you came from. She thinks she can write a column. She thinks that she can do what I do, and I'm the one who invented this business. You know what? She just was a two-bit movie star, not even a movie star, a wannabe, a starlet. She's just a ham. She's a big ham who thinks she wants to be a journalist.
I'm
calling you a ham, Hetty.
Pineapple, you.
Yes,
well, one of the reviewers says that she looks like a pineapple. She's shaped like a pineapple.
You see how cruel?
Leave already. We don't want you here.
She's so cruel. I'll tell you, it is true that they told me that I looked a little bit like a pineapple, but I've been working out. I bought myself one of those, those little belt jiggle machines. You put the belt on here, and you can just stand there, and it kind of jiggles all the fat away. And then you can just still, enjoy all the things that you enjoy in life, like a nice cocktail and a cigarette and stuff while you're losing weight all at the same time. It works great. There are some people who said that Llewellyn Parsons drinks a tumbler of whiskey every day. Well, you know what? I do. And you would too. It's a tough business. You have to have a nose for the news, and you have to have the hide of a rhinoceros, truly. And I'm really good. I invented this entire business. And I can make a star or break a star. If I write something good in my column about an upcoming uprising star, if I write something good about their performance or about them, they're a smash hit in the motion pictures. And if I write something bad, it's just the opposite. Most of those people in Hollywood now know that if they really want good press and if they want the publicity, if they want their name in the papers, they know they have to tell it to Luella first.
Not always, you pineapple.
Go, 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 go. Just go. They do tell it to Luella first. You all know Bob Hope, right? Well, you know, when Bob Hope enlisted for the Army during WW2, he had to fill out this form that said, in case of emergency, who should you call? And Bob Hope told him, you better put down Luella Parsons. That's really true. And you know the starlet Teresa Brewer? Some of you remember Teresa Brewer? You know, I had heard from some of my co-workers that she was pregnant. So I called her up and I said, Teresa, I heard you're going to have a baby. Why didn't you tell me? You're always supposed to tell me first. And she said, no, Luella, I'm not pregnant. Oh, wait a minute, my other phone is ringing. Put me on hold. She comes back and she said, Luella, that was my doctor. You were right. You know, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, same small town as Ronnie Reagan, my dear friend. And I always wanted to be a writer. I'm not like this one over here who doesn't even write her own columns. I was a writer in elementary school, and I was on the yearbook staff when I was in high school, and I had a lot of talent, you know. But when you come from a family of modest means and you graduate from high school, there was no money for me to go to school. So I did what every other, or many other, women do when they graduate from high school. If they don't go to college, you got to find a husband, right? What else do you do? So I ended up with this guy by the name of John Parsons. See, silence tells me you even think that name is boring. John Parsons, and get this, he was in real estate. I mean, it couldn't get much worse than that. And then it does get worse because he wanted to go and live in Iowa. There is nothing worse than living in Iowa with a real estate agent named John Parsons. But you know, I gotta say, that marriage didn't last long, but there were two good things that came out of that marriage. One was my daughter, Harriet. My daughter, Harriet, is the love of my life, and we still are very, very close. And the second good thing that came out of that marriage was in Iowa, I was so bored that in the afternoons, I would make my way down to the motion picture theater. And I'd sit there in the dark, and I'd listen to the organ player playing all the music behind those big films, and I'd stare at that big screen, and all the romance, and all the glamour, and all the action. And I fell in love. And I knew then that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be part of the motion picture industry. Now, you know, I guess John Parsons was not as boring as I really thought he was, because he ended up taking off with his secretary. But that also was a good thing, because I finally picked little Harriet up and I got out of Iowa. And I was going to make a brand new start for myself. And I went to Chicago. I got a job. I got a job at a newspaper, writing a little like society column, you know, like gossip about some of the housewives and people in Chicago, in the suburbs, and who was getting married and all that. I wrote a little society column. But that was not really enough to pay all the bills, so I got a night job as well, and that was working for S&A Studios. Now, S&A Studios was a corporation, a business that would look at scripts that everyday people like you and me would write that might make it into a motion picture. And everybody wanted to be in motion pictures. Everybody wanted to have something to do with that industry. So people would send in their ideas for movies. And you know, sometimes they'd send them on notebook paper, sometimes they'd be all type fancy, sometimes it'd be on a cocktail napkin. And I got to read them, and I would decide if this will make a good picture or this one won't make a good picture. And I was pretty good at it. I'm sure you all heard of movies that I okayed. I think one was called Margaret's Awakening, Women in Chains. I mean, we did some really fine pictures. And I even managed to put baby Harriet Parsons in a couple films, just as, a walk-on little baby, so it was great, but it was hard. But you know what was interesting about being in Chicago? Well, Chicago was right between Hollywood, LA, and New York. And all the starlets and the people who wanted to get into motion pictures, nobody had the money to buy airline tickets, so they'd take trains and they would take buses. And they always stopped in Chicago. So I was interested in these folks, so I'd go down there to the train station or the bus station, and I would put on my acting just a little bit like dense, and they'd start telling me all the stuff that they had to do and all the stuff they've done and where they're going and who they know. And I thought, this sounds like it'd be pretty interesting. I bet some people would be interested in learning about the people that actually make these motion pictures. What if we had a column in the newspaper that was all about gossip about these people? Stars and starlets and movie stars and glamour gals and debutantes and all this. And so I pitched the idea to my boss. Well, I didn't talk to him directly because the boss of the newspaper that I worked at was William Randolph Hearst. You might have heard of him. In those days, he was more powerful than the president himself, and that's true. But I pitched the idea anyway to an editor, and I said, what if I wrote a column every week about the movie stars and the people that want to get into motion pictures? And they gave me an okay. They said, sure, give it a shot, Luella, we'll see how it goes. And I started making more and more trips to the bus stations and the train stations, and I had a nose for news and an ear to listen to what some good gossip might be. And I started putting these into my column, and guess what? The column became a smash hit. All the subscriptions to the newspaper started building and growing and such, and more people were buying it because they were all excited to read this column. Mr. Hearst noticed, and so he decided to give me a promotion, and he moved me and Harriet to New York. We went to New York City. Now there's a place for good gossip in the train stations and the bus stations, and the women's bathrooms and the gynecologist's office and all kinds of wonderful opportunities there. And I had so much news and so much gossip to share in these columns that I even got some assistants. He put me in a big room with 10 different telephone lines and hired me some cats. Cats. Those were women who couldn't get any jobs on stage or on screen, so they came to work for me as ones that would go out and do all the listening and gather all the news. And they would report back to me, and I could put them into my column. So it was doing very, very well. Even Hedda here, for a short time, was one of those cats. She was. You think she shows me any gratitude? Not in her life. So those were really happy days. They were great days. I got married during that time to another guy. His name was Captain Jack McCafferty. And, he just didn't understand Hollywood and New York and the business, And I would be like, we'd go out to dinner, and it was a nice place. And by now, I was kind of getting a reputation for being kind of an important woman who could write something bad and make a star rise, or write something terrible and make somebody just fall off the face of the earth. So I was having dinner with Captain Jack, my husband, and the waiter came up to me, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, Mrs. Parsons, there's a telephone call for you. Do you want to take it? And I said, yeah, of course, I have to take it. So they brought one of those telephones over to the table and stuff, and I was listening, and it was one of the cats calling in some great news. And so I got the waiter back, and I said, thank you for bringing me that. Do you happen to have a typewriter? And he did. He brought me over a typewriter, so I had the story out right away, And then by the time I was finished typing, I looked over the typewriter, and Captain Jack was gone. Never saw him again. But it's okay. I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of stars. One young woman who I really noticed because she was so talented and so lovely, I think she's on one of these posters here, and I can't jump down there and see which one, but her name was Marion Davies. And she was probably 15, 16 years old. And she was a starlet. She was on stage, a dancer and such. And she was so lovely. And I knew that Mr. Hearst had kind of an eye, for lovely young potential talent. And so I introduced them. And he was smitten. He was smitten with Marion Davies. He fell instantly in love. And so I started writing really good things in my column about Marion Davies and all her acting talent and all her beauty and such. And, nobody else was going to write that stuff. So it was up to me. And Mr. Hearst noticed. And so I very often was invited then to Mr. Hearst, some of his parties and his get-togethers and such. I was invited to a party on his yacht in Hollywood, or in LA. And his yacht was named the Oneida. It was a big yacht, and he was known for having wonderful parties. And I got invited because he was so grateful that I introduced him to Marion Davies. And there are a lot of big stars there. Charlie Chaplin was there, and other movie stars. Of course, Marion Davies was there herself, and it was honoring the birthday of a producer by the name of Thomas Ince. And we had a marvelous time. There was plenty to drink, and it was prohibition, but that didn't bother anybody. And there's plenty to drink and plenty to eat, and it was just swell. But you know what happened? That night, I went to my stateroom, and in the middle of the night, I heard a big bang, like that. And it sounded like a gunshot. And it woke me up, and in fact, it woke everybody up that was on the ship. And I threw my robe on, and we all went outside to see what happened. And, there was never a really good explanation, except that someone was dead. Thomas Ince, the producer, had been shot. Now, there was all kind of rumors and such floating around, because everybody knew how Mr. Hearst felt about Marion Davies. But also, there were rumors that Charlie Chaplin and Marion Davies were doing a little bit of cadoodling. And some people said that Mr. Hearst was known to have a gun in his berth. And nobody said anything, and the next morning, we got the newspapers on the ship there, and the headlines read, "Producer Thomas Ince dies of heart attack on William Randolph Hearst's boat." But folks, you've got to keep your eyes open, and you've got to keep your ears sharp. Because I was the one, when they wheeled Thomas Ince off on that gurney off the ship, I was the one who saw the little cover over him blow a little bit, and I saw the bullet hole right between his eyes. And I didn't say anything. And after that, William Randolph Hearst gave me a lifetime contract at the Chicago Herald. I told him I was dying of tuberculosis, and I would really love to just move to Hollywood permanently. And I told him I had 2 years to live, and so he did move me, but I'm still here. But it was wonderful because as I said, the newspaper got bigger and bigger, and then just in 1938, I was offered this radio show, and it was all a wonderful feeling to have all this power in Hollywood and to have all the stars coming to me. All the stars knew that they had to tell it to Luella first. They all did. And, it was a great, great time. But I think maybe I had just a little bit too much power. For Louis B. Mayer of Mayer Studios, they said, "We don't like the fact that Luella Parsons feels that she could make or break a star." And they decided that maybe I was getting a little bit too big for my britches here. And that's why they brought in Hedda Hopper, to give me some competition and to bring me down a few notches. And that's true, too. So it's always been a struggle with that one, let me tell you. I did meet a wonderful guy, though. I met the love of my life during that time. I met Harry Martin. Dr. Harry Martin. We called him Docky. He was a good man. I mean, he also, at age 40-something, he enlisted in the Army, too, during the big war. He was also associated with the business. He was like a medical advisor to all those films that had anything to do with hospitals or sickness and such like that. He was an advisor on those films. And he also was a doctor to very many of the actors and actresses themselves. He specialized, in certain areas. In fact, they called him the clap doctor. And I'm sure it had to do with like applause and such, because he was in the business and all that. But he was a great guy. And my life was really happy with Ducky. Ducky did have a little problem with drink, though, and such at some point. I know that we've been at parties here and there in Hollywood or in New York, and I remember one in particular, we're having a great time, and one of my friends, elbowed me, and she said, "Luella, Ducky's there, he's drunk, he passed out under the table." And I said, just let him sleep, he's got to operate in the morning. He was such a fine doctor that one time he had a little bit too much to drink, and he actually fell into a Turkish bath, and he actually broke his neck. He did. But you know what he did? He just went like this, and he fixed it himself. That's how talented he was. Now, I'm looking around if I can tell this one other story about Docky and make sure there's no kids here in the audience. But, Docky loved dressing up. We always loved to go to, like, costume parties and such. And one time we attended a Greek party, Greek theme, we had to wear togas and such. And that Docky, he didn't wear anything under his toga. And, the door opened up, like, off the patio, and the breeze came in a little bit. And some of the other women were like, oh, there's Luella's real column right there. Oh, just nasty. Actually, I think that it might be getting close to the time that I actually have to start this program now. I know I've been going on too long. This is live radio, folks. So when I go like this, I need to hear you, like, really give me some nice, like, sound like you're excited to be here. Let's just practice that one time. Like, okay, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that's good. Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Okay, that's fabulous. Just so you do that on cue. You can clap or cheer whenever you like, actually. That's just fine. All right. I think we're just about ready to start. Let me see, just a little cheer a little bit more. And, okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and hello, Hollywood. This is your host, Luella Parsons, bringing you another episode, and I've got some juicy tidbits for you today, folks. Now, I was the only columnist who was actually invited to the wedding of Rita Hayworth and Ali Khan. Now, we know poor Rita Hayworth has been around the block a number of times. She was married to a used car salesman. She was the chattel of Victor Mature. She was dumped by a lot of men, actually. So we're really happy right now that she found her husband in Ali Khan. I'm sure they'll make a wonderful couple. When we're speaking about actresses, I really have a lot more respect for Rita Hayworth than that tramp Mae West. Mae West was scheduled to be on my show tonight. I always have a movie star here to be interviewed, and I treat my guest stars very well. I don't pay them or anything, but I give them a whole case of Campbell's soup, our sponsor. And I let them choose between chicken noodle soup and tomato soup. So Mae West, she's the one who said, "Hey, is that a gun in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?" What filthy talk. Hollywood deserves better than that kind of talk and that kind of language in the pictures. Don't we agree? Just not at all what Hollywood wants to see, that kind of filth. Mae West came into the studio, and she always wanted to be filmed with a film or a screen or a filter over her face to make her look younger because, oh my God, she's 40 years old. And I said, "You don't need a special spotlight or a filter here, Mae. It's a radio program." And she got mad and she huffed off, so I do not have a guest star for you tonight to actually listen to. But she said her next picture is going to be a bomb, or it's going to be a big success, and I think it's bombs away, Mae West. And speaking of bombs, there's been a lot of talk lately about this new movie that was Citizen Kane, that self-proclaimed genius Orson Welles. Citizen Kane, everybody's calling it like the best film ever in Hollywood and such, and I'll tell you, I think it's a bomb. It's just too difficult to understand. People don't want to think that hard when they go into a motion picture. And there are actually people who are saying that it's a story about none other than my esteemed generous, humble, wonderful man, boss, Mr. William Randolph Hearst, that it's supposed to somehow parody what he did in his life, and that is untrue. That is an absolute lie. Do you know that there is some talk among the Academy Award Association to cancel the Academy Awards this year just so Orson Welles does not win? And that's true. Speaking of other actors, Betty Davis from Warner Brother Pictures. She would be a great star if she put herself in the hands of a better makeup man. With those rouge beaded eyes and such, she always looks like she's in some kind of horror movie, like whatever happened to you, Betty? Betty Davis brings me to another one, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford, those two women, grown women, fight like two cats. They push each other, they call each other names, they are screeching and fighting all the time, and it's a shame when two women from Hollywood treat each other. All right, we'll move on with that one. But I do want to say that Joan Crawford did adopt a beautiful baby girl, Christina. And we say, what a lucky little child she is to have a mother like Joan Crawford. I'm sure we will be seeing a lot more of her when she grows up. Now, let's talk to somebody that makes all of our hearts beat just a little faster, and that is none other than heartthrob Clark Gable, Mr. Clark Gable. And I only have to mention, now Clark Gable and Carol Lombard had a beautiful marriage. I was actually supposed to be invited to their wedding, and somehow it got lost in the mail, I think, my invitation. But they did send Docky and me a wonderful wedding gift when we got married. They sent us a Formica kitchen table. And nothing says Hollywood glamour like a Formica kitchen table, let me tell you. But what we really remember about Clark Gable, and the women are going to know what I'm talking about here, that movie, It Happened One Night. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. Happened one night with Celeste Holm. And they were in the rain, and they had to share one hotel room. And of course, because this was at that time when there was no hanky-panky, they put a sheet or something up between. But America saw Clark Gable take off his shirt. And he was not wearing an undershirt. Absolutely, there's somebody out there that saw it, I know. And you know, it was a glorious moment for women in America to see him in all his splendor that way. But you know, the downside of that was that, and this is true, that after that film, undershirt sales in America fell by 53%. And the bad news of that is that most men don't look like Clark Gable when they take off their undershirts. I want to talk just a little bit about Ingrid Bergman. We all love Ingrid Bergman. What a beautiful actress. But I want to say, Ingrid, what's gotten into you? Well, I'll tell you what's gotten into her. A Love Child by her director, Roberto Rossellini. A motion picture is not the only thing that those two are making together. Now, we're going to take a moment here to hear a word from our sponsor. Bung, bung, bung. Ladies and gentlemen out there, when you're rushing home from a matinee, once again, and you don't have time to cook for your family, just make sure that you have a can of chicken soup or tomato soup or any of the great soups that Campbell's makes. Keep them in your cupboard all the time. That's what the stars in Hollywood do. Our back lot is full of cans of Campbell's soup. It's good. Thank you. We're back. Okay. You know, now I've heard everything. That great actor, Archie Leach, has gone and changed his name to Cary Grant. What kind of name is Cary Grant? I almost can't say that without getting my tongue all twisted up. And another one, Harriet Lake, has changed her name to Ann Southern. What's wrong with the name Harriet? That's my daughter's name. I love that name. Speaking of Gary Cooper, I can't say Cary Grant and Gary Cooper in the same sentence without getting all tongue-tied. But Gary Cooper dumped Dorothy Taylor last year, and the whole country felt sorry for her. But she's got herself a new man, folks. She's now dating a really stand-up guy, a great guy, by the name of Benjamin Siegel. Bugsy Siegel. Isn't that a cute nickname? And we're so happy for that new classy guy and her. Now, I finally want to say, before we close our program tonight, I also want to say congratulations to my dear friend, Mr. Ronnie Reagan. You know, Ronnie Reagan appeared with me in one of the Hollywood Follies that I was a cameo appearance in, and we grew up in the same small town. And I got to say, I have so much love for this man. He and Jane Wyman make the perfect Hollywood couple. And I just love to see a couple like that. I know that their love will last forever. And despite what anybody else says, I also want to congratulate him on being elected president of the Screen Actors Guild. And we all know that, of course, just being president of the Screen Actors Guild does not mean Ronnie Reagan has no other kinds of political ambitions. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and this is Luella Parsons signing off. Tune in next week to another program of Hollywood Hotel. Good night, folks. Oh, thank you all. You did a wonderful job. You're a wonderful audience, and I just appreciate you being here and all your enthusiasm and such. It's been wonderful. And, you know, I just got to say, this job is getting tougher and tougher. It's not that easy anymore. You know, some of the up-and-coming stars like James Dean or Marilyn Monroe stuff, they don't want to talk to people like me. They don't want to be interviewed. They don't want to share their secrets. They don't think they need me to help make them a star. And yet I know that this is the only way that Hollywood is ever going to succeed. So I just thank you for being here. Continue to watch the program and continue to listen to the show.
All right, we have had enough.
Hedda,
You have to go, these poor people. Please pity them.
I'm calling security.
Go.
Don't believe anything he says. It's all fake news. All fake news.
Out, O-U-T, out. Don't you know what that means? What is all of this? Hello. Oh, let's see what, I'll have to clean something. Okay. Soup. The woman peddles soup. Out. Let me see. Well, I'm setting up a few things here. Why don't you discuss amongst yourselves the 8 Wives of Joseph Ewell Jr.? Yes, please. Well, discuss. Would it help you if I said the 8 Wives of Mickey Rooney? Maybe, yes. Well, here he is, J. Edgar Hoover, my choice for president. Well, you know, Hollywood was founded by the Methodists. Yes, they were. From Hicksville, Ohio. I kid you not. No, they decided they would go out there and form a perfect community where people could live in peace with no gambling and no drinking. And how did that work out for them there? I don't know. But let me see. Not seeing too well here. Will you help me there, you blondie in the middle? Yes, because you see, I'm looking out there and not that many people are wearing hats. Now I tell you, good customs have just fallen by the wayside. Well, find some lovely people. Oh, look, there is someone right there and they have got a pilot's hat on. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, yes, well, we have one more. And then, find a willing gentleman. Please do, yes, find someone who is a very, very, and one more, dear, Blondie. Well, you can have this one, you know, because, be careful though, it is mink. That one is mink. That was given to me by Marion Davies. Well, you know, the paramour of William Randolph Hearst, Rich as the Devil, Citizen Kane, and all that, you know. Luella has been telling people that he took up with her when she was 15 years old. That is not true. She was 14 years old. So, I mean, seriously. Oh, well, you're going to have to excuse me a moment here while I take this call. Darling, yes, hold the presses. I've always wanted to say that. Hold the presses. James Roosevelt, FDR's son, is getting a divorce. Yes, he is. It's true. Call him. They'll confirm it. Yes. And that was it. That was the scoop that put me over the top. I got there before Luella or anyone else. And then pretty soon I was circulated in the AP, the UP, and every other darn P there. So, not bad for the butcher's daughter from Hollidaysburg, PA, is it? Now, really. I was the middle of about 7 children, and my name was Elda Furry. You can imagine why I wanted to change that. Well, you know, I loved my mother, but I hated my father because he made me work in his store. He made me quit school. Oh, I didn't mind quitting school, but he didn't pay me. So I took what I was owed from the till because I learned early on that a woman has to watch out for herself. Well, before too much longer, oh, excuse me, I should have checked here. Luella often leaves wet spots on the chair. Now, we'll put that down there, yes. Oh, did she show you her bald spot? She has one, you know. Oh, let's see, where was I? Ah, yes, a minute ago. Ah, yes. Well, my father, then he took off for the Klondike. And my mother, she moved us to Altoona. You can imagine how exciting Altoona was. Well, long about that time, I decided that I had seen Ethel Barrymore in Captain Jinks and the Horse Marines. And that was it. I knew I wanted to be a star. And so I ran away to New York, shaved a few years off of my age, and went on the stage. But I do have to make one more call. You're going to have to forgive me again. I am sorry. Yes, Patsy, darling. Yes, put her through, and I will. Elizabeth. What is this I hear about you taking Eddie Fisher away from Debbie Reynolds? Oh, darling, no, you can't do that. Oh, really? Well, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt Debbie. You know, if there's any younger people in the audience, I would be talking about Angelina Jolie taking Brad Pitt away from Jennifer Aniston, you know. The more things change, the more they stay the same, yes. Well, anyway, Elizabeth. No, people like Debbie a lot more than they like you, so you're really going to have to... What? Well, that's when she said the thing that made me run the column. She said, what do you expect me to do, sleep alone? Well, I tell you, I had a good Quaker upbringing. When something was wrong, I pointed it out. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah, I was in New York. Well, you know, maybe it's because I didn't have much to do with men that I became ensnared by DeWolf Hopper. You see, he was a matinee idol on the stage. You have to take my word for it. He was just the charmingest. Of course, he was older. He was as old as my father. And he was bald. Well, he had had the typhoid and he lost all his hair. And he was blue. Because, well, he had a throat condition and he gargled with silver nitrate and it turned him blue. So old, bald, and blue, but I married him. Oh, not me, no, I was wife number 3, perhaps, yes, at one point in time. They called him the husband of his country. Well, not too long after that, I decided that I had to change my name because my name was Elda. And his previous wives, let's see, there had been an Edna and there had been an Ida. And he just kept getting us mixed up, so that wasn't going to go. So I went to an astrologer. I paid her $10, and she named me Hedda Hopper. Well, we had one son, my son Bill Hopper. You all know him. Yes, you do. Oh, he played Paul Drake on Perry Mason for all of those years. Yes, that was my lovely son, Bill. Well, before too much longer, I found myself needing to go for work. I was a single mother. I had to work, and so I decided to go out to Hollywood and make movies. And I did. I made so many B movies that Luella called me the Queen of the Quickies. But as time went on, you know, I never got the roles that were bigger than that. And so pretty soon they stopped my contract. Then what was I to do? Well, a friend of mine had an idea. She said, well, you can write a gossip column for these newspapers. And I said, well, that is an idea. And so I started to do that. And the rest, my darlings, is history. Oh, you know, they say that the studios created Luella to keep the stars in check. And then they said that they created me in order to keep Luella in check. But then who was going to keep me in check? Nobody, darlings, nobody. But I do have one thing that Luella did not. Yes, I do. I have an FBI file. My friend Eddie Hoover, he was really a good friend of mine. And so I would write to him and tell him some things, and he would write to me and tell me some things. And we wrote at one time that Miss Hedda Hopper telephoned for the director. She was advised of the director's absence and was referred. She has advised that Miss Hopper was calling to see if the Bureau could give her any information, guidance regarding redacted, 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 movie actress who starred in the movie redacted, redacted, redacted. Well, you get the idea anyway. You know, I was the vice president of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals. Duke Wayne was the president. And if I helped to run some of those pinko commies out of Hollywood, I am proud of that, especially over there at Metro Goldwyn Moscow. Look at you, I am sorry. I know you didn't come here to learn about me, did you? No? No, you came here for the gossip, didn't you? Well, we're going to start indulging in some of that. I can start by reading you some letters from that I received from my column. Yes, it is true. I was writing that Joseph Cotton and Deanna Durbin were an item, much to the distress of Mrs. Cotton. Well, poor old Joe got so incensed at what he called the falsehoods that he kicked my back end at the party and sent me sprawling. Well, later I began writing about Cary Grant, and Joseph Cotton sent him a shoe with suggestions on what to do with it. And yes, it's true. I told Dean Martin and that lovely June Ellison that I didn't care what they did behind closed doors. They just couldn't do it at the airport. Joan Crawford, Yeah, she and I did travel together. We went to see the Strategic Air Command together. We were there for a weekend. She packed 28 dresses and 14 hats. Well, for 2 days. And, well, I went out and came back, and she was ironing them all and hanging them up. She said, you never know. What a strange woman she was. Yes, and it's true that Joan Bennett once sent me a $435 Valentine. $400 for a newspaper ad declaring her grievances against me, and $35 for the skunk that she sent me. It was a lovely show business skunk, and I named it Joan. All right, let's start. We can start with this here. And darlings, I'm going to need a little bit of help here. I cannot see these lovely people, very well. We can dim the lights up here a little bit, and then bring their lights up, so I can see their beautiful faces there. Yes. So let me share a few things with you. Can you see this young man here? His name is Ronan Farrow. He's a talking head on television, has many opinions, but that's not why I have him here. He is Mia Farrow's son. And Mia, while she had him, she was married to this guy, Woody Allen, Before she was married to Woody Allen, she was married to who? Anybody? I hear Frank Sinatra. I think that's correct. So I don't know What do you think? Hedda would not spread any rumors at all, no. And then there was this lovely lady, Loretta Young. Y'all remember her? She would twirl into a room and twirl back out again. Well, she was making a movie, and shortly after that she went and she adopted a daughter. No, she didn't adopt him. She adopted. Always check your things, Hedda, ahead of time. Okay, yeah, here we go. She adopted this young woman. Judy Davis is her name. Isn't she a lovely young woman? Well, she had been working on a movie. I think it was called The Call of the Wild. And on that movie, she was co-starring with a gentleman by the name of anybody? Clark Gable. Yes. So you see, I don't know. I'll never be the one to say. Yes, at one point, Loretta even had Judy's ears pinned back because unfortunately she had his ears. And she didn't want that to be found out. So, all right, well, you know, we're not going to mess around with that anymore. All right, here is a game that I am very fond of playing. And you're going to have to shout it out. This game is called, Can We Name Elizabeth Taylor's Husbands? Shout it out, please. I heard a Richard Burton, I heard an Eddie Fisher. I need help. Michael Wilding, I heard that. Mike Todd, I heard that. Sorry, dear, no. Okay, well, let's go back, and I don't think I heard the first one. Anybody know the first one? Nicky Hilton. That's right, darlings. Nicky Hilton, the son of Conrad Hilton, you know, all those hotels and everything. Well, Conrad at one time was married to Zsa Zsa Gabor. So you see, at one time, Zsa Zsa Gabor was Liz's stepmother, I think, right. Now, but anyway, Nicky Hilton, he knocked her around a lot, so they did get divorced. And then she married this charming British gentleman by the name of Michael Wilding, as someone has mentioned there. And then after that, she married a guy by the name of Mike Todd. I think someone had him as well, Round the World in 80 Days. And now we get to the really lascivious stuff here. Mike Todd, unfortunately, died early in a plane crash. The plane was called the Lucky Liz. I don't know if it was quite so lucky for him. So following him was Eddie Fisher, that prince and peach of a gentleman. And following Eddie, then she went and made a movie called Cleopatra, where she met Richard Burton, and she married Richard Burton, and then she married Richard Burton, and then she married John Warner, Senator John Warner. Yes, Liz was once a senator's wife. Well, you know, Liz, she had this propensity for her weight to go up and down sometimes, and while she was married to Mr. Senator Warner, her weight was up. And someone wrote, you know, we always wanted to look like Liz Taylor, and now, God help us, we do. And then the final gentleman, Larry Fortensky. I always wanted to give a special prize for somebody who knows that. Yes, Larry Fortensky, a much younger man. She met him in rehab. Then she finally stopped getting married. She was not a bad woman, though. She did an awful lot for AIDS research, I would say. Yeah. Okay, well, who should we? Well, Debbie Reynolds, we did know that. We know the first one for sure, Eddie Fisher on that. I don't know if anyone knows her next two husbands, but the second one was Harry Carle, who was a shoe magnate. and a gambler, gambled away an awful lot of her money, then finally had an affair, and well, then they got divorced. And then following him, she married a man named Hamlet. Yes, and he also spent all of her money, gambled that away, and had an affair. Then her children wouldn't let her get married again. You know, her choices were really very, very bad. But one interesting thing, while she was married to Hamlet, there was one evening where she was really afraid for her life. I mean, she was afraid that he was after her insurance money, and they were up in their apartment in Las Vegas at the time, and there was a tiny balcony. He kept trying to get her out there. She didn't want to go. She was suspicious. So she said, excuse me, I have to go to the powder room. And she disappeared. Then she went into a closet, and she climbed up, you know, on the shelf of the closet and waited there until he went away. It's all true, darling. She wrote all about it. Okay. Now, I would like to know, do any of you have any questions that you would like to answer? Any gossip you would like to hear about? Don't worry if I don't know it. I'll just make it up. I mean, it's what we do. Anybody? Oh, no questions. Well, you've been sitting for a long time. Well, my dear friends, I just want to leave you with one final thing, and that is that nobody is interested in sweetness and light.
Hold on, Hedda. Hold on, Hedda. Hold on, Hedda.
No.
You said nobody's interested in sweetness and light.
I know.
But you know, folks, my daughter Harriet grew up to be a great producer. And she just produced that movie, I Remember Mama. And that's all sweetness and light. And Hedda, I gotta say, actually, you gave that movie a pretty good review. And I do have to admit, I appreciate that.
And you were always kind to my son Bill, too, really. So I suppose, in a way, you know, that you and I were...
Well, but we're both single mothers. We both run our own
yes.
businesses. We both are powerful women in the city. I mean, it seems like we should have something in common or some kind of common ground. Maybe, I don't know.
Like each other and
try a little bit or something?
No. Look at them. They're a bunch of vultures. What are they waiting to
I always like when we fight. That's the favorite part. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed of yourselves for encouraging that kind of violence. Really, you know. But had I got to say that, you know, actually, if we really did ever put our two heads together, we could really rock this town.
We could? Mm-hmm. So what do you say? What, are you hungry?
I'm hungry and I'm real thirsty.
And real thirsty, yes. Romanovs, do you think?
I think that's great.
I think so, too.
And call the newspapers, because maybe they should get like a photograph of us going out together or something. That'd be great.
Absolutely
okay,
can,
thanks.
yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks very much. We're from Women in History, of course, and we just always love coming here. It's one of our favorite programs to do all summer. We've been here for a couple years, so we thank John always for inviting us, and we just thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Ruth Pangrace, and this is Linda Witkowski. If you have some questions, we're happy to answer them. We'll be
hanging out for
a couple minutes.
You have to go. That's fine, too.
Yeah. Any questions at all about anything about our group or about our characters, such?
Oh, these are very reticent people.
I think the saddest story that Hedda Hopper died from, I'm not Hedda Hopper, you're Hedda Hopper. Luella Parsons died from arterial sclerosis, liver problems, because she liked to drink a tumbler of whiskey every day. And she died in, I think, 1972 or something in a nursing home. And the thing that's so sweet and so sad is she also had affected her mind. And she used to sit in front of a big screen watching old movies and talking to the stars as if they were in the same room with her. She has 2 stars on the Hollywood Boulevard, on the Stars of Fame on Hollywood Boulevard, and I just got to finally see those this past weekend, so that was a treat. Yeah. And Hedda?
I believe that when Hedda passed away and they told Luella said, good.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
Okay.
it was a pleasure to be
So-
here. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned William Randolph Hearst putting a hole in that guy's head. Is that just a rumor, or do you think that really happened?
I'm sure that never happened. No, I'm absolutely sure. No. I mean, if it happened, nobody would ever know. I mean, they did a good job of covering it up. So, but that is true about the bullet hole and about him paying her off for the rest of her life. That is true. So you just make your own conclusions. So, anything else?
I did want to add one other thing. You know, really, today we would be out of business because the people in Hollywood, if they did anything out of sorts, they would just call a press conference to announce it, you know?
Yeah.
They really would. But I have been finding that the real scandals are with the tech bros. You know, the technology bros, yes. I was just checking, because Hedda keeps up, you know, with modern times. I was checking in AI and found out that Elon Musk has had 4 wives and has 14 children. And then I checked, and nobody in Hollywood has exceeded that number. So I think things have shifted a bit.
Yeah. Thank you all very, very much. Good night. Thank you.